Yes,
What was your story?
Well, you know, Doug and Father, I've been in the pro-life movement a long time, and I've done a lot of work. Easy stuff, hard stuff, everything in between. And
you've been to jail?
Yeah, I've been to jail. I may be going to jail again since I got arrested at Notre Dame with the Obama situation, so I could pray for the Notre Dame 88. We might be going to trial in the spring, but sometimes I say to myself, I think I can't learn anything new. You know, I've seen it all, I've heard it all. Then when this night, March 29th, when we found the remains of the aborted babies behind the Woman Care abortion clinic in Lathrop Village. It's kind of a notorious abortionist that runs this place called Alberto Hodari, and why he still even has his license is a question. But we, and if you watch the whole video of Requiem for the Disappeared, you'll see exactly what I saw when I saw it. Because we videotaped exactly when we were finding the remains, we videotaped them right at the time that we found them.
Right.
There's a hand, well, if you did the shoulder, you know, that was the suction cannulas, but that we've also found in the trash. The shoulder, the arm, and the hand of the aborted baby would be no bigger than an inch. And we had a camera focused right on top of it. And when I saw that hand, and I said to myself, as if I were talking to that baby, I said to myself, I found your secret. Nobody was ever supposed to see you. No one, no eye was ever supposed to know you, find you, see you. And by going into the trash and moving stuff aside, you know, the coffee grounds and the McDonald's wrappers, and I found your secret, the secret of your hidden life, and I found the secret of your hidden death. And now everybody's going to know. You're not going to be hidden anymore. We're going to show the world that you lived once, that you died a violent death once, under an unjust law. I'm going to tell your secret. That's how I felt, you know. But you know, I learned something new.
Right.
You know, I felt something new.
After all these years of doing the work.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
You're proclaiming that this is a human being.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Look at me, and and the video, Requiem for the Disappeared, with this original music. Tell me who I am. Did you see me? Did you know me? You know, that's what an unborn baby would say. You know, and tell me who I am means, am I connected to anybody?
Right.
You know, does anybody know me?
Well, and that's what strikes me about the fact that you've been involved in so many recoveries of the bodies and then burials.
Yes.
That every time you do that, you're saying to the world, this is a human being. This life has dignity.
Yes.
There's a soul here.
There's a soul. There's a someone.
Exactly.
This is a someone.
Not just a problem to be done away with, not just a target to be eliminated, as the abortion industry would look at it that way. You're saying we're making it known that there is a credibility and there is validity and legitimacy to this life. And that's something, don't you think, that's so critical, especially for our young people, younger generations these days who are struggling whether or not they're pro-life or pro-abortion. You know, if we can see the humanity, if we can see the reality of life, which is why the ultrasounds are so dangerous to the abortion industry.
Oh, yes. Isn't that amazing that, you know, a woman shouldn't see the life that is within her, that she's about. This is a life or death decision that's being made here, absolutely irrevocable if she goes ahead with this abortion. That's, I think, very telling.
Right.
They don't want the humanity of the unborn child to be known.
Right.
Because then I'm saying I recognize that you are part of the human race, you have rights, and I have to honor that. And maybe I'm not going to go ahead with this abortion.
And maybe not even necessarily for some on a religious basis, but simply on a natural law basis.
Yes.
That a woman who really recognizes that life within the womb of herself, it's that much harder for her to think that she could dispose or terminate that life.
I know. Well, the abortion industry sees the ultrasound imaging as placing an undue burden on the woman's decision. See?
You know, and I think too, and I was telling you before, I remember growing up, my mom telling me about the Vietnam coverage and how that, when, you know, it was like a different kind of experience of war. It wasn't a stylized reporting of the war. All of a sudden you're seeing body bags and dead bodies and stuff, and how that just shook everybody up. And you think about the race issues here, the water cannons and dogs and all that kind of stuff, that you're revealing the reality here. It's like we've lost kind of a certain power of argument and logic, but the pictures is so convincing.
Yeah, that's why when the New York Times, for the first time in 37 years of legalized abortion, actually dared to show the photos of the abortion victims, I mean, this was historic. And the photos are actually still there. They have them on the New York Times Lens blog, LENSBLOG, where they've mounted the article that Damien Cave did, and the photos are still there. So I think people can still go and see what the New York Times did.
Did anybody lose their job over that?
No.
Because I can see it really causing quite a bit of
I
unrest
still
for
don't
some
understand
people.
how it happened.
Exactly.
I mean, front
I
page.
think it happened because the Times, it's the Times. And it's like, oh, all of a sudden something, you know, the Times gave these photos credibility in a way that holding them, pro-lifer holding them, didn't have. It's like, how can we argue with the Times? I mean, there must be something to it, in other words. I think people are saying. And it's, in fact, you should go and take a look at the blog that's connected with the article that they have mounted on Lens blog. Because you'll have the, you know, people saying, well, I don't agree with the pro-lifers, but I think it's the right thing to do to show these pictures. For the sake of discussion, why hide the truth? If this is what abortion is, we need to be honest about it. Wow, it's like, whoa, where did that come from? It's an amazing thing. What a great gift it was.
Well, you think of like a 70s feminism tried to say, well, it's not a child, now it's like we're in an age where, yeah, it's a child, but I still, and I'd even...
Thank you, Father. That's exactly, that's really where things are really, I think that's why, you know, it's very dangerous, because definitely you've begun to see the pro-abortion movement admit, because it can't run from the pictures, you know, biology is what it is and so on, Leonard Nilsson photo. You got to admit that we're dealing with human life, but the woman still has the right to privacy. She still has the right to choose to make the decision without government interference. So it's kind of interesting that that's where there has been a shift in the pro-abortion side of things. Admit that it's killing, but it's legal and it's moral.
So you have a right to kill.
Yeah, that's right. You have
Basically,
a right to, yes.
I have a right to kill.
We got to take a quick break, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Lumen Gentium, a light to all nations, one of the principal documents of the Second Vatican Council and one of the least understood.
Many Catholics don't have a clue what we believe about grace.
In his new series, Father Brian Mulady illuminates the true nature of this writing and what it means for today's church. A light to all nations. On the Global Catholic Network, EWTN.
For more information about Monica Miller and Citizens for ProLife Society, please visit www.prolifesociety.com. That's prolifesociety.com.
Welcome back to Life on the Rock, and we're talking with Dr. Monica Miller. You know what I like about your approach is that you have a confidence in humanity, in the sense that if the normal guy out there on the street sees the reality of this, they'll want to change it. And it's really, as you point out, a civil rights issue. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, I really I believe that the pro-life movement is really a movement that wants to push out the boundaries of social justice, and that this is a movement that actually, you know, I hate those labels, liberal, conservative. Maybe the real word is generous. You know, when somebody says you gave liberally to a particular cause, they mean that's a good thing, right? The pro-life movement can be recognized as a really innate, you know, in essence, it's a liberal thing, because we want to be inclusive of more people and recognize that civil rights, human dignity include a whole class of human beings who we can't see, unless, of course, we take photographs like that or we do ultrasounds or whatever, but that's the generous view. And, you know, we have to look, I think we have to look at it that way, and I think it helps people who wouldn't, you know, who won't get involved in pro-life work because they think it's conservative or Republican or maybe or whatever, and they don't see themselves that way. So this is a way to actually say it has nothing to do with liberal or conservative, really. It has to do with justice. And the pro-life movement is a movement about justice. Abortion is an act of violence. Any photograph you see of an aborted baby, you're looking at somebody who suffered death violently and unjustly, who could not fight back. What's so liberal about that? Nothing. Right. It's a lie to say, well, this is what it means to be liberal. A big person beating up on a small one. This is so false. Really, it's the pro-life movement who has the high moral ground, and is really going to, you know, I really believe, you know, 100 years from now, we look back and we're going to say, you know, the pro-life movement really was carrying there's where the edge of the social justice movement was in the pro-life movement.
I like the way you phrase it, that it's like you're saying we're making the decision about who gets to belong to the human family. Yeah, who gets to belong?
You know, only these people or only those people.
And your pictures are highlighting that these are human.
Those people belong within the human family too. They're showing this photograph. That was the baby taken from the Michigan Avenue Medical Center in the dumpster in 1987.
But I think you're right. You talk about 100 years from now, looking back, and you know, will we look at these images and think, how could we have allowed this to go on? It's like looking back at slavery and seeing images of human beings in chains, and knowing that they were bought and sold.
Yeah, how could we have done such a
Stuffed
thing?
into ships, knowing that hundreds would die in the journey. They'd just be thrown overboard.
Right, exactly.
But they were just sold as a commodity. We look back now and say, how could that have happened?
What kind of darkness blinded us? I feel that when this whole horrible episode is over, it will be as if we woke up from a stupor. Like, huh? We did that to millions of innocent human lives? We threw them away in the trash? We burnt them in our trash incinerators? They're filled up our landfills, and we called that a right?
Even when we could go into the womb and with cameras, with multi-dimensional ultrasounds, and see so much. We can operate on the baby in the womb, and then close up the womb, and the baby can still come to full term and birth. After all of that, how can we look back? How will we not look back and say this was insanity?
Well, with every kind of social injustice, whether it's slavery, civil rights issues, and so on, it's what's the problem that we ultimately are confronting? It's power. The pro-abortion movement, abortion is power, and they don't want to give it up. And, you know, we were talking earlier that abortion, though, represents a very particular kind of killing because, well, or I should say maybe the pro-life issue is very particular in this regard. The pro-life issue isn't just about securing the right to life for the unborn child. The pro-life movement really is about healing a sexual ethic that has caused this rejection of the unborn. The two things go together. We want a law that protects innocent unborn children from these acts of violence and abortion. But that's never going to be enough. The disordered sexual ethic, having intimacy without regard for life, that life is part of what it means to be intimate. If we don't heal that, we really haven't succeeded as a movement.
So even putting the laws in place, and God willing, we do that because those are needed.
Right.
But ultimately, the heart and the mind has to be, and I like the term used, healed,
Yep.
and ordered properly to God's design, so we understand what true intimacy, what God's order between man and woman is all about.
Exactly. I mean, abortion, when you look at these photographs and you see what kind of destruction the human race is capable of, what you're really dealing with is a radical spiritual disaster. I mean, that's what abortion really represents, is a spiritual disaster. That's what we have on our hands. And again, I think that the use of the photography is so important. A lot of groups, this is their focus is the use of these photographs. The Center for Bioethical Reform, CBR, they have photos that they use, our photos, and because we have to speak for these hidden victims that are killed behind the Starbucks,
Can you speak about when you had your own children? How did that affect your work in the pro-life movement?
Well, that's a good question. I got married late, and I didn't have children until after the age of 36. So for me to feel life within myself, after all of those babies that we had found who were unwanted and abandoned and thrown away, so I was living in two completely different worlds. And the world of life and the world of acceptance of another human being and accepting another human being as a gift is completely opposed. It's completely opposite the abortion ethic, the philosophy of abortion. And these two worlds cannot be reconciled. So when we say we're in a culture war, it's a real war. And it really, I think everything is at stake in it.
Because I would think that would be a powerful defense for the pro-life movement, especially coming from women who've had children and they, have a deep sense of the gift, the mystery, blessing of life.
Right.
So, we have just about 2 minutes. I know you use the term moral imagination.
Oh, yeah.
Could you describe that?
Right. I think one of the handicaps of the pro-life movement, or the issue within the issue of abortion, that we're handicapped by the failure of a moral imagination. We can be opposed now to discrimination against African Americans, Native Americans, be more sensitive about immigrants and so on, the Nazi Holocaust, because our imagination has it's matured. But somehow when it comes to the issue of abortion, we don't have that kind of imagination. We are not really connected in heart, mind, and soul with that tiny victim that gets killed in abortion. That baby's not real to us. And so the showing of the truth about what happens to that unborn child awakens the imagination so that your life is not the same anymore. You're not, the lie of a normal culture is ripped away, and you can't just go about your daily life as if it doesn't matter anymore. And so that's what I mean by the moral imagination is awakened. And so when we were doing these Face the Truth tours in Illinois, we would stand on the street for blocks with these photographs. I would see the awakening of the soul in people. Because there's a certain look that comes on their face when they go, what did I just see? It's like you could see it in their facial expressions. And I would sit back and I says, that soul, that person is not the same now. They're never going to see abortion the same way. because the death of that child has become part of who they are now.
Right.
And they know that they have to make a response. They have to do something about it.
That's a good ending on your work. Thank you so much for joining us and describing the movement.
Thank you, Doug.
Next week, we're going to have our wrap-up of the Walk for Life. We'll have that montage put together, and we're going to go out with L'Angelus' song, Jenny, Change Your Mind. And may our Heavenly Father bless you in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. We'll see you out in San Francisco.